It's not a flash in the pan, it's another club review. Stay tuned and let's see what we're going to look at next. Welcome back to the mcgolfshop. Jim McCleary, most award certified club maker, club fitter, where you learn about club reviews, club repairs, and club fittings, and all for your scores to go low. If you would, like the video, subscribe, swing and hit that bell, and that way you'll get more of these videos when they drop. What are we reviewing? Well, it's been a while coming, and I've held off on it for a while, only because I wanted to get a little more info, and I really wanted some better blow parts. We are going to look at the Epic Flash. Epic Flash. Of course, that's a Callaway club. There's been a lot of talk about the marketing or the technology that's behind it, and we're going to start from the very beginning and go all the way to the end. As usual, we're going to talk about what the company says. We're going to measure it and see if it matches up. We'll do some hitting, and then I'll give you some reviews and tell you what each one can do. All right, so to begin with, you have the Epic Flash, and then you have the Epic Flash Sub-Zero. Now, if you notice, the one big major difference between the two is that there's a weight right here towards the front of the face. Normally, when you put a weight towards the front of the face, it lowers the spin and it lowers the launch angle ever so slightly. All right, if you look again, there's not a huge amount of difference between these two in the way of shape. You look at it this way. Not too much, as I'm holding it wrong. How about that? And then how about that? All right, not too much in the way of difference as you look down on them. Now, when you do look down on them, they're actually pretty clean. There's not a lot of busyness going on. You have your alignment line. You have it where the face actually meets part of the crown, and then you get the nice fancy paint job that fades into what would be the carbon weave. Okay. They also feature the sliding weight. Both of them have the sliding weight. It has come back. Honestly, I appreciate that because that is a tweak. All right, that's not a fix. It's a tweak. So if you have a slight fade and you want to unslight fade, you could do that. If you have a slight draw or a bigger draw and you want to make it a smaller draw, you can do that. Now, in the past, this weight has been very small. Or not small, but less. All right, it's a bigger weight this time, so a smaller shift gets you into a better area. Now let's talk about the technology. As we know, all the Callaway drivers have been using jailbreak technology. All right, jailbreak technology is basically these two rods that connect the inside top and the inside bottom. So you can see that on the bottom where it's connected. Obviously, you don't want it on the top because then it would be distractive. You also remember in the very first one that we did that these rods were just parallel. And in the Rogue, they became kind of hourglass shaped. And these remain in that same shape. Okay. If you look in there, now this being the Sub-Zero, very clean. You get to see where the slider moves. This is where the weight's at, and this is all just the decorative piecing that goes in there. All right, very clean, right? Very clean for what it is. I also like the fact that we're not afraid to show you this is where the tip goes in and the screw goes up into this particular area, so now you know how that works. And that this weight, if you look in here very closely, there's three, you see these two up here? 3 fins to help stabilize that so it doesn't break off, which is a good thing. And then what we have on top is our carbon fiber crown. It goes on top just like that. So now you see how it's put together. This is all one piece, and you have that, what would have been, it's not necessarily cup face anymore because they put this face in it, but you get all that one piece, so you're still in pretty good shape for forgiveness. That goes on top. Now let's get to the big part. In the past, and this is going to be something new, hopefully none of you guys have seen this one before. In the past, they used what an X-Moto face. And that was it right there. X-Moto face, hence the X in the middle. You know, you get to see the spatial pieces in between the X's, with the idea that this thing would give you the rebound and all that stuff that was standard in Callaway gear, right? This was standard in all their gear all the way up until last year. Well, Mr. Brewer, who started on the same day as my birthday at Callaway, has always been a friend of the clubmaker, and thank you for that. Anyway, he got to R&D guys and said, hey, buy a supercomputer. And for some reason, maybe they said, hey, we do really good with a supercomputer. So they did. They bought a supercomputer. Who does that? They told the supercomputer, here's what we want out of a club face. We want, you know, still maintain the ball speed. We still want off-center hits to be better. It can't go above the USGA limits. All these different parameters they put in, including the size of the head, all these different things to say, give me the best you possibly can get. 15,000 tries later, or iterations, 15,000 tries later, the computer spits out a face, and it looks something like that. All right, it looks like a garbled mess, doesn't it? So they made it. So they went out and they said, well, let's try it, and they made it, and they put it in the club face, and well, oh my gosh, super improvement. If you look at it, there's one, and they're not all the same face. There's a face for the regular Epic, and then there's a face for the Sub-Zero. See how they're not exactly equal. You can see they don't look the same. Honestly, I think they look like ears. All right, that's how I've described it. They look like ears. And there's also a face for the fairway woods as well. So they're not all the same. So the supercomputer has been busy. So what does all this mean when it does this? Well, if you look and, you know, it's kind of like energy being radiated out would be what I would look at it as. Here's the middle, which is going to be obviously the best impact, but then you see how it's a little bit more meat behind it, so that if you're off even a little bit, you're still going to get a decent hit. And then around it, there's another, you know, we'll call it a cavity, or, you know, a depression in the face that is probably allowing a little bit of springiness. And then around here, to me, would be more like a cavity back iron, where when you go from a blade to a cavity back, your off-center hits aren't nearly as penal. I think what we're seeing here is something that kind of reminds me of that, right? So you get a little bit of weight on the outside, a lot of weight in the inside, and now you get the best of both worlds. So that helps with dispersion, right? So now what we're talking about is, yeah, everybody hits it in that face, which is just that center of gravity, which is the, you know, as big as the head of a pen. But what happens when you miss it, like we're all going to do? And is it as bad? Therein lies the question. Is it as bad? Well, again, on the tour, this is gaining a tremendous amount of acceptance, even from those people not under contract with Callaway. Do I have all the numbers? No, because I'm not going to be a marketing guy for Callaway in that arena. Just the mere fact, go watch here, you know, the players is coming. Go watch and see how many are out there that are in guys that aren't toting the Callaway logo on their head, okay, or on their bag for that matter. So how does all this work? We've got shafts, I got heads. Let's go see what the company says they are, and let's find out what they really were. We measured the Sub-Zero and we measured the regular Epic Flash. Both were 9 degrees. I used the Even Flow Green, the Tensai Blue, and the Smoke Black. How about that? Green, blue, black. So here's what Callaway says they are. They are 45.5 inches. They're D3 swing weights. They're going to be whatever that loft is, so we'll just say 9. And they're going to be 58 degrees, at least in the regular model of lie angle. So what did I find? What did I find? All right, so in the first one, in the Epic Flash Regular, I had a 61 degree lie angle, and I had a 9 degree loft angle. I had D3 swing weights in 2 of them and a D4 in what was the actual lightest one, which was kind of funny. Within that narrow area, that's where that could be. I also found the flex when they said stiff. The Even Flow Green was in the stiff range, the Tensai Blue was in the next range up, and the Smoke was above that. Now, what does all that mean? That just means the profiles are different. And we'll talk about that after we hit and what I would do those for. Then, on the Epic Flash Sub-Zero, right, I got a 60 degree lie angle. I got a 8.5 degree loft angle, so a half a degree is not a big deal. I had D4 swing weights for the green and the blue, and a 3 for the smoke, or the Epic or the smoke shaft. And again, in the Even Flow Green, I was in the middle of the stiff range. Again, in the Tensai, I was in the middle of the X-Flex, and the smoke was much more stiff than that. Okay, the last but not least, what I also found out is that they were all to be 45.5 inches, and it was funny. The 9 in the regular was 45 3/4, where the Sub-Zero was 45.5. So I went back and I measured the 10.5s, and they were on both the Sub-Zero and the regular, and they were 45 3/4 as well. Now, what does that mean? Again, does that mean that the grip might not be on all the way? I doubt that seriously, because they put on a ton of grips. It could be that the calculation was off a little bit for that. So again, when you have these things made, if you go to custom fit, you're sure to get that taken care of. But again, you always want to make sure. So if you're finding out that, and these things have manufacturing tolerances, so if you find out that you're hitting that 9 a little too high, or that 10.5 a little too low, don't be afraid to adjust it that 1 degree, because it may very well be off 1 degree, which is well within the manufacturing's tolerance. But the length, clubmaker club companies are really big on length and swing weights and whatnot. So they were good on swing weight. They were good actually on the loft angles. The lie angles were off, and the lengths were basically off by 1/4 inch. So we'll have to take that into the fitting room. Let's hit some stuff. Okay, it's going to be fast and furious. 2 shafts. One's my gamer, one's the green. You can see that they're very close to one another. I hit the gamer just a little bit better in quality of hit. However, I did pull it to the inside, and we're going to see why here in just a second. I also spun my shaft a little bit more than the other. If you look, there's it is. The outside in type path with the closed face brings you into the inside. For me, it's to the right because I'm a lefty. And then you see the green acceleration profile is smoother, and probably allowed me to go a little bit straighter, where my gamer is a little stiffer, and you see a couple of hooks, which is a couple of late releases. Now this is what it looks like using the green shaft as far as all eight shots, and after this you'll see it with what would be my gamer shaft. And there that is, and you can see it's got quite of a wide dispersion, but mostly towards the inside, and not necessarily really great, but for the first 8 swings I'll take it. So now I've taken them down to 5. The distance has got a little bit better. Here you go, you're going to see where they're landing. Red being for the green shaft, which is in the middle. It's a slightly lighter one, where this is slightly heavier and to the inside, but I'm happy with the groupings. And then there you go, tighter patterns again.
with the club head paths. And you see I have just a slightly up or slightly down attack angle on both sets of clubs. And there we're going to see the path, and it's again with the first in the gamer, the pattern is tight with the flights. I do like the way it comes out of the air, where the even flow green is going to be into the middle, and it comes out of the air just a little bit. It goes a little higher, so it flies a little further, but it comes out of the air a little different. Now what we're looking at here is you're going to see that if I hit it further and spin it less, I can get almost 30 doggone yards. That's what we want.
Well, it turned out to be a nice day here in Ohio. It got up into the 70s. Who knew? You know, after a bunch of days in the 30s and 40s and nastiness all night long and all day long, we had a break. So in between me looking at all of this, I had a fitting and a lesson. So we got that taken care of, and then I got to finish my testing. And as you saw, there wasn't too much difference between and what I did was I hit the Epic. I hit the regular Epic, and it was my Epic, the one I've got. And I put the even flow green, and that was a 50-gram shaft, plus plus this with my shaft, that's a 60-gram, and the profile is a bit stiffer for a little bit lower ball flight. And as you can see, there was in the one that's stiffer did produce a lower ball flight. My quality of hit was a little bit better, allowing me not to swing as hard, but I was pulling. Now I contribute that to first 5 to 8 shots, and then getting through the ball and actually changing my path a little bit, and I think that helped quite a bit. I think I'm going to the inside because of possibly the grip, or could be because of the weight, but that's beginning of season stuff. I went through all the other parameters that the clubs produced. All right, so now to the fitting part. Who would I recommend these for? Not only is it just the heads, okay, we get caught up in just the heads. When you go get fit, there's more than just buying the right head. You got to have the right shaft, the right length, the right loft, all that stuff, hence the fitting. If you're going to pay the money for these guys, you might as well go through a fitting and get exactly what it is that you need, because the technology in this is first rate and should last you for quite some time. Now what comes stock in these guys is an even flow green, the tensai blue, and the smoke shaft. And that's kind of on how they would go from, you know, average player, smoother, swing, likes a lighter shaft, to tensai is the 60-gram, you know, guy with an average, maybe average to aggressive type swing, to the guy that is looking into the smoke, which is a 60-gram, and then this is all in the stiff range, a 60-gram looking for something that is far more stable. Guy that's got a little more power in the swing. Now, I've already fit a bunch of guys into the Smoke S that we're throwing down on about 110 mile-an-hour swing speed. The shaft tends to play a little bit more than advertised, and the tensai tends to play just a hair more than advertised, where the green is right down the middle, right where it says it's supposed to be. Low spin, not quite as low spin, less spin, higher trajectory, mid trajectory, lower trajectory from green, blue, black. Who are these, and who would you prescribe those for? Well, you know, their Sub-Zero, they're always going to say is for the better player. Why is that? Well, the better player is typically the guy classified for higher swing speeds. However, if you are spinning the ball quite a bit, don't be afraid to try the Sub-Zero. This little weight in the front can drop a lot of spin. When that spin comes off, you get a good trajectory, and off it goes. Okay, so don't be afraid to try this, because this thing is just as open or closed as this guy is, and you can adjust them, right? They have adjustabilities to get there. So again, if you're just a little bit higher, you know, because of the way manufacturing tolerances are, don't be afraid to adjust or have somebody adjust that to get maybe +1 or -1 degree just for the final tweak. The Epics, I would imagine that the regular Epic, the Epic Flash, is going to go in a lot of people's bags, right? The consistency, and you saw on mine that the patterns were very tight, and that's one of the benefits of this face that's in here. The Sub-Zero is for that guy that wants to lower the spin, quite possibly has a higher swing speed, but they don't necessarily have to go together. So, you know, if you're trying to drop it, then this is where I would go. If you're just out there getting after it and you just, you know, having a good time, then this is where I would go, the regular versus the Sub-Zero. And I would follow that up the same thing in the fairway woods, right? Same characteristics, just a little shorter if you want to do that. Looks like that might be a review for later. You know, regular, most people's bags, lower spin, trying to keep that same trajectory, maybe even higher swing speeds. That's where I would go with that. But it's also to be married to the 3 shafts that they offer, the green, the blue, and the black. So give them a try. And again, as always, let's see your scores go low.